And we will be focusing on Medicaid and health plans and their redetermination. We will try to go through the majority or all of it when it comes to Medicaid, depending on time. So if you do have any questions or any discussions you'd like to ask as well, please do add them currently in the chat, and we will try to answer it throughout or during the designated times we have for questions. Sure. Okay, perfect. So after knowing about me, for everyone who did not yet write their name and organization in the chat, please do for certificate purposes. And I would like, if anyone would like to share any type of challenges that they do have when they apply for Medicaid or any type of health program. Doesn't have to be Medicaid. It could be any health program that's provided by the state or federal level. If we can discuss it during the training today, that would be great. Otherwise, I will try to answer it during the follow-up email. So what we will be discussing today is we'll do a quick review on the available Medicaid programs that in the state of Illinois. We will talk about eligibility requirements for these programs, how we can apply for them, how to fill out the redetermination and when to fill out the redetermination. Any updates on the programs that are available currently. We will be mentioning a couple of examples and case studies. So in general, Medicaid programs in the state of Illinois, we do have a couple of Medicaid programs. In general, Medicaid provides health coverage for millions of Americans, include eligible low-income adults, children, pregnant women, elderly adults, and those with disabilities. It is administered by states. However, the funding does come from federal, so they have to take into consideration federal requirements when it comes to eligibility. We do have some programs that are designed by states themselves. They're not under Medicaid specifically, but they are provided by the same entity, which is the Health and Family Services of Illinois, or DHS, such as the Health for Immigrant Health program, health benefits for immigrant adults, and health benefits for immigrant seniors as well, which both programs currently, unfortunately, are paused. However, this is just an example of how there are some programs that the states themselves do develop just to try and fill out the gap for some of the programs that are offered on the federal level in general. Some programs are funded jointly by states and federal government. So we do have some programs that the state and the federal government do fund it together. So these are the most common Medicaid programs that we've heard about a lot. The majority of those who are receiving Medicaid will be under these specific programs. Starting with All Kids. All Kids are for all children that are under the age of 19. So once they reach the age 19, on their 19th birthday, they will be kicked out of the program. And if they're eligible for another program, they will be going there in general. However, in general, it's for everyone in the state of Illinois, regardless of immigration status. If they meet income levels, they would be eligible to receive Medicaid health coverage under the specific program. We do have family care. It's also a Medicaid program for those adults who are low income, meet income thresholds in general, that are taking care of children under the age of 19. If they do not have any children under the age of 19 and they're income eligible and meeting other type of criteria requirements for Medicaid, they could receive a Medicaid program called ACA Adult Medicaid, which are for adults between the age of 19 to 64 that have no children. So there is another option for those who don't take care of any children and are low income and meet other type of criteria eligibility. If it's a pregnant woman, they would be and meet income requirements, they would be eligible to receive Medicaid and health coverage under Moms and Babies. This specific program are for pregnant women and after birth for 12 months, and it's for any child under the age of 1. After a mother receives insurance under moms and babies, after the program is done, if she's eligible for Medicaid for other programs such as ACA adult or family care, they will be transferred immediately to that specific program. However, if they're not eligible for any reason such as immigration status, unfortunately, they would not be receiving any type of health insurance through the state and federal level in Illinois. Another specific Medicaid program, this is specifically for older adults and those who are disabled. It's called AABD Medicaid, which is short for the Aid of Aged, Blind, Disabled. This specific program, we do have a cash, food, and medical program under this specific program. We will only be focusing or talking a little bit about AABD Medicaid, which is the health program for today. It includes the spend down as well in certain cases. So it's for individuals with disabilities under the age of 65, or those who are over the age of 65 that are considered seniors, or they are blind. So there are more than one way that an individual could be eligible for this specific program. We'll be talking a little bit about income, immigrant eligibility, and all of that in a minute. However, these are like the most known, or these are the current Medicaid programs in Illinois. In general, who can enroll in Medicaid? Who can enroll in any of these programs that are offered by the Illinois Department of Human Services and Health and Family Services? For ACA, which is for adults, anyone between the age of 19 and 64, they have to be, first of all, a U.S. citizen or something we call a qualified non-citizen. Qualified non-citizens are non-citizens that are eligible to receive federal benefits such as Medicaid, SNAP, and TANF. They have to be an Illinois resident. No one can receive any type of benefits in the state of Illinois if they are not an Illinois resident. There are many ways you can prove Illinois residency, such as with an ID. If an ID is not present, there are other documents such as a lease. You can provide a utility bill, a correspondence from the bank that has your address on it. Or if you're new to the country in general, or you're new to the state, a letter from the individual that you're living with, if you're not leasing, for example, could be sufficient in some cases. And also for this specific program, they have to meet 138% under the federal poverty line. So for each program in Medicaid or in general, any program that's provided by IDHS and HFS, they have to meet income requirements depending on something we do call the federal poverty line. There are, so if each one of them has a different percentage, some programs meet 200%, 100%, 350%. So it depends on the program in general. If you'd like to look into the what is considered the federal poverty line for this year, there is a website online, you can look it up, and I will also attach it in the follow-up email. So the federal poverty line itself does changes every year according to different reasons, such as inflation, mostly inflation. So the percentage itself will stay the same, and unless the guidelines for the program itself got changed. However, the amount of income under the percentage would be changing every year. I hope it makes sense. So also for example, the AABD program, which are for older adults over the age of 65, blind and disabled individuals, 19 to 64. They also have to be a U.S. citizen or a qualified non-citizen, or they also have to be an Illinois resident. For this specific program, it's income below 100% of the federal poverty line. This is just to show in a comparison how two programs for Medicaid due to different qualifiers or like their credit category, income, and age, each program has a different percentage of federal poverty line, or like how much income they can make a year for them to be eligible for a program. So they have to be 100% under the federal poverty line, and their resources have to be below a certain amount. So there's an asset test specifically for this specific program they have to go through. So if we go to Moms and Babies, which is the Medicaid program that I just mentioned, that's specifically for pregnant women. So it's for pregnant women and any child under the age of 1. So they have to be an Illinois resident. They have to make income under 213% of the federal poverty line. So for this specific programs, mothers, pregnant women can receive health coverage until 12 months after giving birth, or after the end of the pregnancy. That's the exact term that's written on the policy. So pregnant women, pregnant individuals in general, can receive health insurance under this specific program after 12 months of the end of the pregnancy. For all kids, this is specifically for all Illinois residents, regardless of immigration status. They do not have to be a qualified non-citizen or a citizen, the same for moms and babies. And they have to just meet age and income requirement for the family. So for all kids, any child between the age of 1 and 18, so it's until their 19th birthday. On their 19th birthday, they will be no longer eligible for this program. They would be transferred to another Medicaid program if they are considered eligible. However, if they are not, then they no longer, unfortunately, would be receiving Medicaid. If they're eligible for the Affordable Care Act marketplace, they would be transferred to that specific program, and they would have a special enrollment period, we do call it, for them to enroll or purchase the plan in general. So for all kids, there's a specific a rule about if they mean a different income, they have to be uninsured for a certain amount of months. But however, when it comes to all Medicaid programs, it is important to know that when you do apply, let's say you're assisting a client or you yourself is applying for Medicaid coverage, and you were visiting the doctor anytime during the 3 months before, and you were considered eligible the 3 months before. However, you did not know about the program, or you thought you were not eligible, so you did not actually apply for the program. You can ask Medicaid to cover any bills 3 months before. You just have to provide proof that you are considered eligible and the information about the bills, and provide the bills as well. So we do have other special Medicaid coverage, one specifically for health benefits for workers with disabilities. It also has a spend down specifically for this specific community. We have former Illinois foster children up to the age of 26. We also have emergency medical assistance for non-citizens and end-stage renal disease for non-citizens. There's also a program called Family Planning Family Planning Program and Family Planning Presumptive Eligibility. Yes, so these two programs we will be discussing in a second as well. There are other programs that are not considered Medicaid. However, they're considered health programs provided by the state of Illinois that we will be discussing at the end of the presentation. So for health benefits specifically for workers that have disabilities, the income has to be under 350% of the federal poverty line. There has to be a limit to assets, and they can apply for the specific program through APE, which is the online portal to apply for benefits through IDHS, or mail in an application if you fill it out. More information on this, you can visit the HFS website. So for emergency medical assistance, specifically for non-citizens, this specific medical assistance are for non-citizens that do not meet any of the eligibility criteria for other Medicaid programs. So they cannot receive any type of program under Medicaid due to them being an unqualified non-citizen. And they are considered low income and don't have any type of other insurance. So what this specific type of insurance does, it assists those who do not have insurance to receive immediate and urgent care for emergency situations. Such as someone receiving an injury, falling out of a ladder, let's say, for example, being in a car accident, having a heart attack. So any of these could be covered under this specific program. They have to, for them to be receiving this specific assistance, they have to be over the age of 19 and meet all other factors of eligibility. They have to be over 19 because those who are under the age of 19 would be eligible for the federal Medicaid program, all kids, as we've mentioned before. However, for this specific program, unfortunately, it does not cover the cost for long-term care, meaning if a client who has diabetes wants to see a primary care provider, unfortunately, they cannot be seen under this specific program. The emergency medical services required are a result of a medical condition that are severe enough to result in placing health in serious jeopardy, serious impairments to bodily functions, or serious dysfunction of any organ or part. So they can receive this specific Medicaid assistance in month of application or during 3 months before month of application in general. However, when it comes to long-term care, it does not cover it, unfortunately. So we do have a specific example just to clarify a little bit. In this example, we have an individual called Tony who's 33. He is undocumented and does not have insurance and is a non-citizen. While installing a drywall at work, he severely cuts his arm. He is taken by ambulance to emergency department. Physicians determined that Tony needs immediate vascular surgery. So in the hospital, they determined that he does not have insurance. The majority of hospitals in Illinois do have a benefit specialist that can assist to apply for benefits over there. Even if they do not have, if they're not able to provide, to apply for that in the hospital itself, Tony can still receive treatment in the hospital and apply later when he's out of the hospital for emergency Medicaid coverage. So if we look at the online portal to apply for benefits, if you want to apply for emergency Medicaid, there's a specific question that's asked, which is, first, it will be under the citizenship information. They would be asking if this individual is a U.S. citizen. By answering no, they would give you a set of questions to provide more information, such as if this is a request for emergency medical for non-citizen, does this person have a sponsor? Is this person a documented alien? So I have to respond to all of this. So in this specific case, he is undocumented. We're talking about Tony, and needs an urgent medical need. So this is actually a request for emergency medical for a non-citizen. So we answer yes over here. If he if he doesn't have documents, we say no and provide any other information that the application does require, such as income and employment status. And there's a specific form from the hospital that they can upload as well. So for the next type of Medicaid or health assistance for those who do not qualify for other type of Medicaid programs, we have something called the end-stage renal disease Medicaid, the specific coverage for Medicaid. So this is considered an emergency condition. It only covers dialysis services. It doesn't cover any type of other specialist care, any type of follow-up appointments, anything else, unfortunately. So this is specifically for non-citizens only that do not meet immigration requirements. So they can apply specifically for this program also through the online application for benefits by IDHS, or they can also go to any FCRC. FCRC is short for Family Community Resource Center, or they can contact IDHS and ask them for assistance to applying for this specific program. They would have to provide information about their diagnosis that they do require dialysis. and they have to provide any information about medical documentation. So if they have any medical documents, if they're applying online, they'll have to attach it in the application, or they can go to any FCRC and provide them in person, or if they do the application in person, they can provide it with them in person. So this is a kind of Medicaid program. It's not a Medicaid program, but it does provide some type of medical coverage for those who are not eligible for any type of reason for Medicaid. So it's called the Family Planning Program. You can apply for this program online through ABE, or you can go to any FCIC and ask assistance to apply for it. However, the best method and the best practice for us to apply for the specific program is actually through ABE online. So this program, we do have two parts of this program, which is the Family Planning Program and the Family Planning Presumptive Eligibility. This allows that those who are also unqualified non-citizens to be able to receive the specific assistance. So it provides ongoing medical coverage for reproductive health and family planning related services to all eligible Illinois residents. However, this is for everyone. For the FPPE, sorry, it provides immediate temporary medical coverage for reproductive health and family planning related services to all eligible Illinois residents. The FPPE program, which is the Family Planning Presumptive Eligibility, this program is normally only for 60 days. And clients can apply, or you can apply for the specific program twice per fiscal year. Federal fiscal year specifically starts on October 1st and ends of September 30th of the following year. So this program can be used as a default program for those who do not qualify for Medicaid and meet income requirements and need some type of at least like small primary care visits, or needs treatment for STDs, or to access, for example, birth control methods, any type of care for reproductive health. The good thing about this program, it's not only for women, it's for everyone regardless of age and gender. However, pregnant women are not eligible for this program because they would be eligible for the Moms and Babies program, the Medicaid program. That's the only reason why they're not eligible. So the good thing also about this program, it's based on an individual, not family income. Meaning, if you have a family that's applying for Medicaid, the mother does not work and she's not eligible for Medicaid and wants to receive this services under this specific program. Let's say she doesn't work, making her income zero. So that means she does make under the $3,628 per month limit. So this specific limit does change. It's according to how much the Moms and Babies program amount for a family of one. So if, let's say, for example, if you're looking at a chart and you're not sure, let's say in a year or 2 or 3 in the future, and you're not sure how much an individual can make per month for them to be eligible for this program, you can just look up Moms and Babies for a family size or household size of 1. That would be the same amount for the whole for this specific program. Hope it does make sense. More information about this specific program, you can access it. The HFS, which is the Health and Family Services, have been promoting this specific program a lot, and they have been partnering with ICANN, which they also work on providing information about how to access reproductive health, specifically for women and for everyone too. So more information about this program, you can access over here. There's a lot of good fact sheets and translated materials. So before I go to Medicaid core eligibility, are there any questions about what we've discussed before? I'll be checking the chat, and if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand as well. Okay, so I'm going to assume that everything is fine. If you do have a question, you can just pop it in the chat anytime, and I would be more than happy to answer it. Other than that, we do have also some time at the end of the presentation. Okay. So in general, what does it affect when we look into eligibility for Medicaid in general? There are certain factors that we look into. We look into something called a citizen or non-citizen status, meaning the immigration status of the individual or the family in general. We look into also the tax filing status, who is considered one family, and we'll also look into income. These are the three basic steps that we normally look into when it comes to medical coverage. So I did mention this earlier that I was talking a lot about someone called a qualified non-citizen or an unqualified non-citizen. So for Medicaid in general, for specifically federal programs, any federal funded Medicaid program, those who would like to receive the program have to be a citizen or something we call a qualified non-citizen. So qualified non-citizens in general are those who have a humanitarian cause for them to be in the United States and have like a humanitarian, they call like immigration status. Examples of them would be refugees, asylees. Just make sure it's not asylum seeker, it's someone who already, someone received asylum status. Also those who have certain humanitarian parolees, such as Afghan humanitarian parolees that have arrived within a certain time frame, and Ukrainian humanitarian parolees, and we do have Cuban entrants as well. Qualified non-citizens also include LPR, those who have LPR, which is the unlawful permanent residence. Another name for it, you might hear a lot of people mentioning green cards as well. These are some of the people who are considered lawful permanent residents. So they have to receive the status. After they have the status for 5 years, then they would be eligible to apply and receive federal benefits through IDHS. So when we talk about those okay. I thought I had a slide on unqualified non-citizens, but I can't find it. So for unqualified non-citizens, some examples of them would be those who have a green card for less than 5 years. So if you have a client that had their green card for less than 5 years, unfortunately, you or your client will be not eligible for any type of federal benefit through IDHS. So they have to have green cards for at least 5 years for them to be eligible, have to be a citizen, have to have a specific humanitarian or some type of humanitarian parolee or refugee or an asylee. So we do have special Medicaid qualifiers in general, such as conditional entrants, Cuban Haitian entrants. We have refugees, asylees. We have U.S. veteran active duty and dependents. This we do mention this specifically because we do have sometimes there are U.S. veterans that do marry non-citizens. So that would be some of the individuals that would be in this certain criteria. Abuse non-citizens and their parents and children for under a specific program, and conditional entrance. And there are many more other qualifying status. It does change. They do change very frequently. In general, this does not apply for those who are pregnant or children under the age of 19, meaning any pregnant woman or child under the age of 19 would be eligible for Medicaid regardless of immigration status if they meet other qualifiers, including income. So I do have this like very small chart that I just made about US citizens and like the most common immigration statuses that you might be seeing. You might be viewing in general that you have a client, or you might know someone who has that specific immigration status. This is just for a comparison reason. So for US citizens, they would be eligible for specifically all federal programs. They're eligible for all Kids for Kids, adult Medicaid, family planning, moms and babies, AEBD, which is for the aid of aged, blind, disabled, and marketplace in general. So they are eligible for all of these. So for the non-citizens, the first, the first 3 are considered something we do call qualified non-citizens. They would be eligible for all federal all federal programs the same as U.S. citizens. As you can see, they are the same as U.S. citizens when it comes to programs. Going to those who have green cards. So for those who had green cards for over 5 years, they would be considered qualified non-citizens, and they would be treated the same as citizens. However, those who had it for less than 5 years would be considered as an unqualified non-citizen. They would be eligible to receive all kids if they're children, because there's no immigration status requirement. They would be eligible for family planning, moms and babies, however, not for adult medical assistance or those for the aged, blind, disabled. However, compared with the other unqualified non-citizens, because they're considered a documented non-citizen, and there is a pathway for them to receive citizenship in general, they are eligible to purchase insurance through the Affordable Care Act on the marketplace. However, when it comes to the rest, which are mostly undocumented non-citizens or have like specific parolee status, or applicants specifically, or temporary protective statuses, unfortunately, they won't be eligible for any other federal program, as I've mentioned before, and not eligible also to purchase their insurance through the Affordable Care Act on the marketplace. I do have a very long chart with the majority or all of the immigration statuses that you might be seeing, or that are mostly common, that I would be attaching also in the follow-up email. Are there any questions about specifically about immigration statuses eligibility for Medicaid? You can ask while I have the chart up, if it's easier. Okay, so if there's a question, I believe I do have the raise your hand function disabled. You can raise your hand, or you can write it in the chat. Thank you. Moving on, we do have an exception specifically for the 5-year rule for Medicaid when it comes to LPRs, which are the legal permanent status that have been in the United States less than 5 years. For general, those who have to be waiting until 5 years for them to receive Medicaid. However, for some non-citizens, qualified non-citizens, they do not have to wait for 5 years for them to be eligible for Medicaid. They would be such as pregnant women, children under the age of 18, regardless of immigration status, and refugees and asylees do not have to wait for 5 years for them to be eligible for Medicaid. And everyone can receive emergency Medicaid for non-citizens when it comes to unqualified non-citizens. We do have sometimes mixed status households, meaning that within the household itself, we have individuals that have or family members that have different types of immigration status. You could have undocumented parents with a U.S. citizen child, for example, or someone who has a green card for over 5 years, someone who has it for less than 5 years, and so on. But these are some of the examples. So the application to receive Medicaid has to be only done for those who are qualified to receive Medicaid, which I mean U.S. citizens and legal residents and those who have qualified non-citizen statuses. However, the income for the whole family has to be included. Meaning the undocumented parents, even if they're not eligible to receive Medicaid, their income has to be taken into consideration to see the eligibility for, let's say, the children that want to receive Medicaid under all kids. I do have an example over here. We have a married couple, Chala and Nakia. They are undocumented non-citizens. They are married and they have 2 U.S. citizen children. They would be needing help with rent and food, and no one has health coverage. So in this specific example, who do you think would be does everyone within the family are eligible to receive Medicaid, or do you who should be included in the case? whose income has to be taken into consideration, and who's eligible. So just to say it again, I think I was all over the place, sorry. So for this specific example, you have two parents. Both of them are undocumented. They have two US citizens. They want to apply for IDHS benefits. Let's focus on health coverage specifically. Who would be eligible to receive health coverage and whose income would be taken into consideration? If you can write it in the chat. So kids eligible, both parents' income considered, only the children, correct. Only the kids. Yes, only the kids are the two who are eligible to receive to apply for Medicaid. However, the income for the whole family will be taken into consideration. So just to show a little bit, I also have a little bit about SNAP and TANF. We've discussed it last time, but it's just over here just to show the differences. So for this specific family, the parents would not be eligible for Medicaid. Nakia could be eligible if she's pregnant. If she's not, she would not. The son and daughter would be eligible if they're under the age of 19. So because we did not mention their ages, that's why it's potentially eligible. However, if we know their age, they're under the age of 19, they would be eligible for all kids. If they're over the age of 19, they will be eligible for ACA. I'm sorry, they're US citizens. They could be potentially eligible if they meet income requirements. So we have to list all individuals in the application as well as their income. Nakia and Chala will not enter their social security numbers in the application as they are not eligible. And they're not requesting any type of benefits for themselves. The family must meet state income guidelines and other rules for the children to receive any type of public benefit, including Medicaid. We do have another program called the Victims of Trafficking, Torture, and Other Serious Crimes. This specific program does have a medical, cash, and food assistance program. We will be talking a little bit about the Medicaid one specifically. So it has been this specific program has been effective since January 1st of 2018. It is for non-citizens that have U visas or are applying for a U visa, applying for a T visa, or applying for an asylum status, or they are planning to apply for any of these specific immigration statuses. They would be qualified for some state-funded public benefits, including BTDC. And as I mentioned, they have to intend to file, have filed, or have received the visas, or have received the visas. They, if they do receive asylum, they would no longer be eligible for this specific program. They would be eligible for federal Medicaid. So I do have a little bit explaining about the specific immigration statuses for those who are not familiar with them. U visa, T visa, and asylum, normally, they are individuals who are fleeing their country for different reasons. Individuals who are applying for these specific statuses would be eligible according to their status specifically. So for someone who is applying for a U visa or has a U visa, it would be a non-immigrant who has suffered substantial physical or mental abuse as a result of having been a victim of any type of criminal activity. For T visas, this specific immigration status is a humanitarian. They will be non-immigrant visa for victims of trafficking. They could be victims of sex trafficking or any type of labor trafficking. Asylum would be a non-immigrant. They could be granted asylum if they are unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin, and they have a well-founded fear of persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group or political opinion. Just to clarify specifically about the asylum status, because currently we do have we have a high rate of immigrants crossing the southern border currently and arriving into Chicago in buses and staying in the shelters. A lot of them are seeking asylum. However, for them to be eligible for asylum, they have to have a very strong case why they themselves are in danger or have a well-founded fear if they do return to their country. Some of the answers cannot be included, such as my country has a lot of gang activity, for example, or there's a war going on in my country. Those are not considered only directly to the individual themselves. That's everyone within the country. So there has to be something like more specific to them, such as let's say someone threatened themselves that if they don't leave their house, they would come and kill them, for example, or anything that, or there has been some discrimination because let's say they are in a specific, let's say the majority. Let's say in Burma, someone's in Burma that's Muslim, and they are persecuted because they are this specific religion. So they're fleeing outside the country. Let's say, for example, these are just some examples. Specific examples you can look up on IDHS and USCIS website. There's more examples on it. But however, in general, those who are applying for these specific immigration statuses would be eligible for benefits under this specific program. So also their family members would be eligible. We call them derivative as family members. It would be an individual who is the spouse, child, parent, or any sibling they would have under the age of 18, the principal victim who is eligible or potentially eligible for one of the above statuses. The spouse has to have been married to the principal victim before the principal victim entered the United States, meaning they have to have been married legally before coming to the United States. Let's say a T visa applicant got married in the United States for someone who's undocumented and wants to have under the same household when they apply for benefits. Because they got married in the United States, unfortunately, they cannot be considered one household. However, if the spouse would be eligible, they can apply by themselves. They can apply for the program by themselves if they are eligible. Some benefits, as I've mentioned, there are three. We have medical, food, and cash assistance. And they normally are like, they do mirror a type of federal benefit. When it comes to medical specifically, it has the same eligibility criteria in certain aspects and coverage as the AABD program, which is the Aid of Age, Blind, and Disabled Individuals program specifically. So it has the same amount of the federal poverty level, which is 100% under the federal poverty level. There is an asset test as well. And they can receive also Medicaid coverage for 3 months backdated of the date they do apply and they do when they do receive the benefits. However, they do have to provide proof that they were eligible 3 months before. For food and cash, they mirror two different types of federal programs, such as SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and for cash, it's TANF, which is the Temporary Assistance of Needy Families. So to be eligible for any other programs under VTTC, they have to meet certain eligibility criteria, such as being over the age of 19. They have to be an Illinois resident. They can prove Illinois residencies by different documents. They have to be preparing to file or have filed applications for asylum, T, or U visa, and they have to meet income guidelines. I do have a question over here mentioning, are VTTC benefits considered public charge? So when it comes to public charge in general, first of all, I have to say that I cannot provide any type of legal advice, just to make sure on specific cases. However, in general, when it comes to public charge, medical benefits are not considered part of the public charge test. You would have to be concerned about any benefit that has like cash or money associated with it. So public charge specifically are a concern for those who wants to stay in the United States and apply for legal permanent residency and then become a U.S. citizen. That's when clients have to be concerned about if a certain benefit, receiving a certain benefit would be considered part of the public charge. If it's for someone who would not be staying for a long time in the United States, or they're here only temporarily, Public charge, they shouldn't be afraid about public charge because they would be returning back to their original country. Public charge is only concerning for those who want to stay in the United States, receive legal status, and become a U.S. citizen. So when it comes to a public charge, medical benefits under VTTC is not part of it. When it comes to cash and food, if they did, the only way to be concerned about public charge is if you have received benefits that you are not eligible for, meaning that you have, let's say, you have received cash. However, your income was above the criteria. So that would be part of the public charge. But in general, when it comes to VTTC, when it comes to medical, there's no public charge to it. You only have to be concerned about some cash and food benefits that are provided by IDHS. And if you have a certain case or certain information, there are a lot of nonprofit legal agencies in the state of Illinois, throughout Cook County, DuPage County, Kane, like all over, that are able to answer any specific case questions, provide more information on public charge. A very good resource to learn a little bit more about public charge is called Protect Family Immigrants. It's a website that has a lot of translated materials. Some of the materials include Spanish, Arabic, Korean, Mandarin, and I think Russian. So I would include that information as well in the follow-up email. Thank you for your question, Maria. If there's any more questions, do not hesitate to add it to the chat. So when it comes to VTTC eligibility, as I've mentioned, they have to meet these specific criteria and also meet income guidelines. So how can we verify residency specifically? These are some of the documents that individuals or you can provide on behalf of your client to verify that they are an Illinois resident. So because those who are coming from the southern border, a lot of them are in the shelters currently, and a lot of organizations are working with them to try and house them currently and find affordable housing. A lot of them are still in the shelter, so a statement from the shelter or clinic they are staying at would be sufficient to prove that they are an Illinois resident and staying in Illinois. If they already have an apartment, receives with work, a lease, any type of utility bills that has the name and the address of the client on it. Current vehicle registration would work as well. Employment records, current public or private school enrollment records would work. And a document issued by the Mexican consulate or other foreign consulate showing an Illinois address, or a document from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security or U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs or U.S. military showing an Illinois address. So there is a very wide variety of documents that individuals can actually submit. There's more. I do have a link on the bottom that you can access. But if you have like a special case, let's say someone who arrived to the United States is applying for asylum, and they are staying with their sister. Their sister, so they don't have any letter, they don't have any paper trail, they do not sign a lease. In these type of situations, sometimes IDHS caseworker can ask for a written statement from the person who lives in the home, in this case, the sister, to write that I am the owner, or I live in this certain address, and I can prove, or like and this certain individual is living with me currently, and you'll have to write the date and sign on it, or the individual who owns the house or is living in that specific house. So IDHS is very lenient when it comes to proof. So if you don't have any of these, you can talk to the caseworker and they can provide other documents or other options to prove residency. For income guidelines for this specific program, when it comes to medical assistance, they have to be under 100% of the federal poverty line. It follows the same of the aid, aged, blind, and disabled guidelines. Medical benefits also have an asset test. It has to follow the same as the federal ABD program. Just to provide a little bit more information about the medical assistance program for VTTC. So for example, this is the household size and it for under 100% of the federal poverty line. So it's a family for one, they have to be making less than $1,255 a month. This is their gross income for them to be eligible for this specific program. This is after taking into consideration assets. The earned and unearned income of the would be taken into consideration, such as the income of the individual who's applying, the income of the spouse, even if the spouse is not applying, any type of unearned income of a dependent child that's under the age of 18, who's included in the income standard, because in this case, the individual who's applying would be taking advantage of the child. Monthly earned and unearned income would be considered as specified for ABD community medical, including work-related expenses and any type of allowed deductions. Medical assistance also, like they could take into consideration discounts if you're paying for long-term care in a facility, would also be considered one of these assets that are deductibles. So what are things that do, as I've mentioned, influence covered option? We did talk about citizens and non-citizens. We'll be talking about the other options. We talked about tax. So everyone who's filing tax together would be on the same household. So when it comes to income, we look into something called modified adjusted gross income. So there are specific budgeting rule that is used for many, but not all of the Medicaid program. So we look into something called adjusted gross income, and we also go look into tax-exempt Social Security interest or foreign income in certain situations, not always. It's called MAGI. So when it comes to Medicaid and MAGI specifically, so those who are we consider part of it, which are adults that are between 19 and 64, children under 18, and pregnant women. Meaning the ABD program is not under MAGI specifically. We look into the marketplace, Medicaid programs, as we mentioned before, all of these would be included. And also tax filing rules would be applying for MAGI. So for non-MAGI, we have the age blind and disabled for those over the age of 65 or under 65 if they're disabled. Medicare Savings Program. So the Medicare Savings Program would be that individuals would be asking Medicaid to cover the cost of some Medicare premiums and any other program that's not medical, such as SNAP. There are different rules that could apply. As we've mentioned, so assets specifically when it comes to the age blind and disabled, Medicaid would be the same. However, others would be different depending on the program itself. So that's why it's important to, if you're concerned about eligibility, just to review each program itself's guidelines and income eligibility. So this is an income chart that has been developed by our organization. We do update it as frequent as possible, normally 3 to 4 times a month, a year, not a month. That would be a lot of work if it was a month. So 3 to 4 times a year. We take this information specifically from the Illinois Department of Human Services website and the Health and Family Services website when they do update the income amount for some programs or the amount of benefits. So specifically when it comes to Medicaid programs, normally they are updated at they are posted around mid to the end of March for any for Medicaid programs for a fiscal year of 2025 for this one or 2024. In this specific chart, you can see the number of individuals within the household, how much they can make or how much they can receive according to their income or the household size, and depending on specific statuses, such as if they're a qualified member or a non-qualified member. Qualified members are normally those who are over the age of 65 or are disabled. Normally, they have a little bit of leniency when it comes to income. They normally have a higher percentage federal poverty line. However, the difference mostly is that assets would be taken into consideration compared with other unqualified members. I would also be sharing a copy of the PDF in the follow-up email. I also wanted to mention, because I did talk about a lot of acronyms, I'm trying to spell out the majority of the acronyms. However, there's a lot of acronyms when it comes to benefits. I'll send a cheat sheet with all of the acronyms in the follow-up email as well, so you can use as a reference. So after applying for Medicaid and being eligible for it, so there is a specific process to know if you have been if you have got accepted or denied. So there's a decision process in general. So first of all, we'll look into the eligibility for benefits. It's normally individually determined. So within the household itself, each individual within the family would be looked up, their information will be looked separately to see if they would be eligible for the program or not. It's also based on the person's tax filing status and service needed. The state determines who would be considered the household. So anyone who's filing taxes together normally would be considered a household when it comes to Medicaid. So their income would be taken into consideration. However, within the household itself, each individual would be screened like individually to see if they would be eligible. Because there are specific programs for kids, let's say, for example, there are specific programs for adults. Just to show the previous example on the chart specifically, if for a family of 4, let's say, the adults and children want to receive Medicaid. If you look on the Medicaid side, so it's Maggie Modified Adjusted Gross Income Programs, which is this part specifically, you can see that if the adults in the family want to receive Medicaid, they have to be making less than $3,588 a month for a household of 4 for them to be eligible to receive Medicaid benefits. For the children of the family, for them to receive, the family had to make less than $8,268. And for pregnant women, there's a difference, which is $5,538. So it depends on, that's why they screen them individually. There are certain cases, let's say, the income is, let's say in this example, is $4,000. So the adults in the family are not eligible. However, the income is still less than $8,000, making the kids eligible. Also look into immigration statuses, because we have a lot of mixed households as well. There are, as we've mentioned before, as we've reviewed before, there are different immigration criteria when it comes to programs in general. Are there any questions about this before I move on? Okay, perfect. So after looking to to determine the household size, depending on the tax filing status, the household would then be determined income used to assist the individual's financial eligibility, as we've mentioned before. So for the Medicaid household and tax rules, there are 3 categories when it comes to individuals in general. Tax filers not claimed as a tax dependent. We have tax dependents with 3 specific exceptions, and non-filers not claimed as a tax dependent. So those are the 3 specific categories when it comes to tax rules in general. There's going to be a separate determination for each individual, but however, the income would be all together. Members of a family can have different household size exactly as well, due to individuals not filing taxes together. Let's say you have a family that has some adult children that are working. They all live within the same household. However, the adult children file their taxes dependently, meaning their income will not be taken into consideration if the parents want to apply for benefits. So they would be applying separately because they're considered different households when it comes to Medicaid. So it all depends on the filing status. So EDG is short for Eligibility Determination Group. This is something we do look into when it comes to know who would be eligible depending on the group. So when it comes to household rules in general, tax filers that are not claimed as dependent would be anyone who's a tax filer. So any tax filer can provide information about those they would be filing with them as dependents, and tax dependents will be taken into consideration those. So if a tax dependent is filing for insurance or Medicaid, they have to provide information about who they are dependent for. You can read through this later. There's a little bit more information about it that could be helpful. So this is a specific example. So we have Gomorrah, Peter. They have a child. They are not married. They still file taxes separately. So this is a very important information when it comes to Medicaid. Gomorrah claims Junior as a dependent on her return. So Junior is the child in this situation, and Gomorrah claims Junior as her return. Peter files his taxes separately. So in this specific case, Gomorrah can apply for health coverage for herself, Peter, and Junior. They have to provide information about Peter's income on the application. So when it comes to the eligibility determination group, eligibility determination group would be looking into those when we look into income and all of that, and the tax filing status as we mentioned. So we will be determining the eligibility individually. We would assume the family income that falls within the Medicaid limits, and Medicaid would be using tax filing status and household relationship rules. So for this specific example, Gomorrah and Junior would be filing together. So let's say Gomorrah is not eligible to receive Medicaid due to immigration status or due to income. However, she's still documented. She would be referred to the marketplace after, it's not 60 days after postpartum. I have to fix that, sorry. It's actually 12 months after giving birth. Her eligibility would be based on a tax unit of 2. When it comes to Peter, his eligibility based on his income alone without taking into consideration anyone else. He also, if he meets citizenship and income, he would be eligible. However, if he's an unqualified non-citizen, most likely he will not be receiving insurance under Medicaid. Junior, because he has both parents in the home, both of their income would be counting for the eligibility, even if Gomorrah is the one who is only taking Junior when it comes to tax. However, Peter and Gomorrah are their legal parents, so both of their income would be taken into consideration to see if they would be eligible for all kids coverage. Before moving on to the application process, are there any questions? Okay. Okay, if there's any questions, you can, oh, sorry. Oh,
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question because I have some participants that just come in and they want to apply for themselves because they turn 18. In this case, was mom and dad living in the same household. So what is the better way for this person to apply?
When it comes to medical benefits?
Yes.
So the individual who just turned 18, even if they are 18, if the individual is still dependent on their parents' taxes, unfortunately, their parents' income has to be included. However, if they work and file their taxes separately, they don't have to include their parents on the application when it only comes to medical.
Okay.
So even if he does not live or they do not live in the same household as their parents, if they are still considered a dependent on any of their parents' taxes, the income of the parent that they are part of the tax return, when they file taxes, their income has to be included. So
Okay.
the only option for them to be eligible, for them to be able to apply for medical benefits by themselves is if they file taxes by themselves without including their parents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Any more questions before we move on? Okay, thank you for asking. Again, any questions throughout while I'm talking or anything? If it's very urgent, you can raise your hand or you can write it in the chat. So, how to apply for Medicaid? The best method and the most recommended method will be through APE, which is the online application for benefits. So you can apply not only for Medicaid through APE, you can apply for some type of health coverage such as HBIA and HBIS when the applications are open. Why did I include HBIA and HBIS not under Medicaid? Because they are health programs. However, they are funded by two different, they come from two different funding resources. So they're not considered Medicaid. They're only like health programs. You can also apply from phone. You can call the specific number and ask for assistance to apply through the phone, or make an appointment to come into any of the family community resource centers to file in an application. Or you can fill out a paper application. You can print it out online. There's an English and Spanish version of it. Unfortunately, those are the two current forms that they are available. We did ask IDHS if they are planning on translating the online application or any of the paper applications into other languages. They would like to do that, but currently it's not happening. Or you can go to in person at a local office. It is recommended if you do file for benefits, a paper application for benefits, and you mail it or you fax it to any of the FCRCs, make sure that you do follow up with the application. Because there's a possibility that it could be lost in the mail, or let's say IDHS's faxes are not working this specific day. So like, oh, they received the application, then like say a month later, you didn't hear anything back, and you would assume that they're still deciding if you're eligible or not. So it's best practices in general after mailing a paper application to call IDHS within a week just to make sure that they received the application. Or if you fax it, you can call on the same day after like a couple of minutes from faxing and make sure that they have received the application. So when it comes to applying, sometimes we do have approved representatives, which are individuals that could be a family member for the client, or it could be a case manager or someone they do trust, such as a friend, that can communicate with IDHS, the Illinois Department of Human Services, on behalf of the client or the person or the family who's applying for benefits. There are specific forms that they have to fill out and have the client sign and submit it. The submission on the form can be online while they're filing online through APE, or if they do it, a paper application has to be with the paper application with the rest of the proofs that IDHS will be requesting. So what this specific form, after filing it and dating it and signing it, so any document, let's say you're applying for a client and you filed as an approved representative, any correspondence from IDHS the client will be receiving, you will be receiving a copy of it. So this could not be applicable for all organizations if you work for an organization that assists with public benefits applications in general. However, it could be helpful, let's say, your client would like you to be talking on behalf of IDHS, and he or they would be in your program for 5 years. There are some programs that could be for non-citizens specifically for 5 years, let's say, for example, and they want you to be a approved representative. You can file out this paper and provide it to IDHS. And also, let's say the client, after going out of the program, no longer want you to be an approved representative, they can contact IDHS and remove that representative from the case. So what also an authorized representative can do, they can act as a representative to appeal a denial or appeal the amount of benefits they receive. Let's say they receive $400 for SNAP, and you decide like, oh no, that's too low, they should be receiving more, or they can receive more information related to the appeal or about the case itself. So the general types of proofs that they do ask when you do apply for benefits in general, online or in person, they would be asking proof for citizenship or immigration status. So citizenship or immigration status, some proof would be including such as an ID, that would be proved. Social Security can prove sometimes, a passport, immigration statuses, any of the forms could be included, such as an I-94, the green card, for example, an AR-11 in some cases. An AR-11 is a document to ask to change the address on USCIS to a different address to receive correspondence from them when you are applying for asylum or you're applying for a green card specifically. Proof of Social Security number or an application. This is only for those who are applying for benefits that require Social Security number, such as SNAP benefits and TANF, and some Medicaid programs. Medicaid programs, such as those who are for undocumented, normally do not require the Social Security number. However, if you do have it, even if it's not required, it would make the process of the application much faster. Proof of Illinois residency, including a lease and any of the proofs that we've mentioned before. Proof of disability, if you're applying as a disabled individual. Proof of disability would be including such as doctor correspondence, or if you're receiving Social Security income due to being disabled, that would be proof. So when it comes to proof of disability, the disability has to be the same as it is defined by Social Security Administration, meaning a client cannot apply for IDH as a disabled individual if they do not meet the definition of Social Security Administration. Meaning, let's say, for example, the client has a herniated disc and they say, I'm unable to work, do it, and I consider myself disabled. However, let's say Social Security Administration does not define someone who has a herniated disc as a disabled individual, meaning they would not be eligible for benefits as a disabled individual. Hopefully makes sense. We also had to provide proof of any type of earned income. It could be self-employment or you work for someone. Proof of unearned income as well. So if you have income, let's say you're receiving Social Security income, you'll have to provide proof of it. Someone, let's say children are sending you money, you have to provide proof of it. Any type of income you are reporting, you'll have to provide. I do have a hand. If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask the question.
That's me again, Juanita.
Hi, Juanita.
Just I have a question because sometimes people who didn't have any status in the country, they have child this disabled. Sometimes, they have a very bad condition.
Mhm.
So my question is, they didn't apply for this benefit on the any on. Do they qualify for this? So I'm sorry, did they qualify for this benefit or no at all?
So if you're talking about children in general, when it comes to medical coverage, regardless of immigration status in the state of Illinois, if they meet income requirements, meaning the parents make under whatever the amount of money for that household size, they would be eligible to receive insurance under all kids. So the AABD would mostly be for adults who are disabled under the age of 65 or seniors over the age of 65 if they meet immigration status as well. So disabled children who are undocumented will still be receiving insurance under a different program called All Kids.
Okay, because I'm so sorry.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry for the interruption, because I have a case that he come to this country, but he's 20, I believe it's between 30, 32 years old.
Mhm.
I don't know, and they have a special condition. Is what was my question, because I see the mom have hard time,
Mhm.
and she didn't born well because she need to take care of him. And
Mhm.
he's like, yeah, I believe so, between 30, 32.
30, 32, and they're considered disabled.
Yes.
Do you know which county they live in?
Can you repeat again?
Which county they live in? Do they live in DuPage, Cook?
Lake County. Lake.
Oh, Lake. Oh, no. I knew a specific program in DuPage, so it's only for DuPage residents. If you're because it's a specific case, I would recommend emailing me, and I would be able to connect you with someone who
Okay,
knows more about this.
okay.
Yes, I do know someone who knows more about disability eligibility, and they do assist those who are disabled adults to receive insurance. So if you can email me
Okay.
privately, I
Yes.
can make the connection.
Okay, thank you very much for your help.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions before I move on? Okay, perfect. So the last thing when it comes to proofs when applying for medical benefits, any type of medical expenses have to be provided, such as bills if available, specifically if you're applying for medical coverage 3 months before. So how long does it take for a decision to be made up when it comes to Medicaid? The time frame to receive a letter advising of the decision can vary depending on the program. It can take up to 45 days. When it comes to AEBD, which is the aid of age blind and disabled, would be 45 days, and at 60 days, it can take up to 60 days if the individual is disabled. If for some situation your client did not get a approval or denial when it comes to Medicaid applications within 45 days, you can request something called a temporary card or a T card when it to cover some type of medical expenses until your client or you receive a decision from Medicaid. So the good thing about the T card, let's say you receive it and you are not eligible for benefits. So if it was determined that you are not eligible for benefits, they would just cut off your benefits. You do not have to pay back anything. However, so this temporary card will be helpful if there has been a delay and it was not the fault of the client, it was the fault of IDHS due to different reasons. So you have to be confirmed that over 45 days or 54 days have been, it's 45, not 54, for application for Medicaid. And ask if the client has any type of urgent needs. They can email or they can call. The fastest way is calling an FCRC or IDHS. Yes, Louisa?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question because I met a woman yesterday, and she told me that she just moved to Illinois. She was living in Madison, Wisconsin, and she has a 5-month-old baby. He born here in the United States, but when she moved, his son, she had to take him to ER, and because on that time she didn't have the Medicare from Illinois, only from Wisconsin. She's receiving bills, and she say, and I say, what she's supposed to do because I told her that you say, because how long ago was that, and do you apply? And yeah, because she just called me yesterday that she has like problem with her daycare and blah blah blah. Yeah, I don't know if she was asking me for money.
No problem. Do you know how
Yeah.
long ago she went to the hospital, the ER here?
I think so, no more than 2 months.
No more than 2 months. Okay, so then
Yeah.
I would suggest applying for Medicaid for her and for her child, because even if she's undocumented.
Yeah, she has Medicare for now, and I say that is so weird because when you apply, they cover 3 months before, right?
Yes, Medicaid, not Medicare.
Medicaid.
Medicare is a different
And
program.
yeah, I confused with that.
No
Medicaid,
problem.
yeah. So I just was telling her to apply again or send the bills or what she's supposed to do.
So the idea, so she has insurance in another state, correct? Not in Illinois.
No, she has incident here in Illinois. But
so
on that time, she has Wisconsin Medicaid.
yeah.
Her son, yeah.
Okay, if she applied and received the new Medicaid, or the number, which is called an RIN number, she can just call the billing department of the hospital and provide them with the RN number to cover the bill.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
And
okay.
I would
Thank you.
recommend contacting their caseworker at IDHS and asking
Okay.
what's the best practice for them to move on when it comes to something like that. Would they be needing, normally because you have to submit copies of the bill within the application. So I would
Okay.
recommend going to an FCRC and asking, do you need any more documents? Or because they would have to prove eligibility 3 months before as well. So I would recommend that
Okay.
she goes to IDHS.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, no problem.
Mm.
Very good question. Okay, so to request the temporary card, you can call, you can email them, or you can do it through Manage My Case. The fastest way is actually calling. So let's say your client or you yourself is not happy with the decision, such as receiving a denial when it comes to Medicaid. So in general, you do have the right to appeal for any decision that the department that gave such an action or inaction, such as refusal to accept an individual's application, failure to act on an application, a denial of an application, decision to reduce, suspend, or terminate or change the amount of assistance. Those are specifically when it comes to food and cash assistance. So normally for appeals, it's 60 days. You have 60 days to apply for an appeal when it comes to medical and cash assistance, and 90 days if it's an appeal for a food assistance SNAP. Let's say you do receive a denial and you don't file an appeal within 60 days. If the individual wants Medicaid coverage, they have to submit a new application then. So how can you file an appeal, or how can your client file an appeal in general? You can file an appeal through Manage My Case. You can or by email or written letter, and include a copy of the notice or letter client received, which they wish to contest, a phone number, email, and recipient identification number, which is the number that normally use people for like Medicaid coverage, current mailing address and consumers' names on the appeal form. You can also just take the appeal form directly to any the FCRC that you applied through. The appeal form itself, I do have a link for it, so you can access it and read and go through it. So for Access Appeals portal, which is the Manage My Case portal specifically, you can find the information about where to access appeals and file it from over here. Okay, so where to file in general. If a decision was made by HFS, you have to email HFS for sure, or contact HFS. If the decision of denial or decision of an inaction or action was made by the Department of Human Services, then you'll have to contact the Department of Human Services. How can you know if a decision was made of either one of them? On the letter itself, it would have the logo or the name of the department that denied or did the inaction or the action in general. Are there questions before we move on managed care organizations? Okay, perfect. So managed care organizations, which you're gonna hear me mentioning a lot as short as MCOs. In general, Medicaid, if you do apply for Medicaid, you do get approval. A lot of them have to be enrolled in a managed care plan. We do have in Illinois 2 types of managed care pathways, which is through Health Choice Illinois, which is all of the Medicaid plans that we've mentioned before, such as ACA adult, all kids and everything else. Then we have the Medicaid Medicare Alignment Initiative, which means that the individual or the client is eligible for both Medicaid and Medicare, and they can receive both benefits. Even if you are eligible or your client is eligible, they do not have to participate if they do not want to. It's not required. So when you do apply for Medicaid in general and want to enroll in a managed care organization, there are specific steps to enroll in a specific one that you're interested in. Normally consumers would receive like a notice with a plan and a primary care provider info if they do not take any type of action. But in general, after applying, there's something called an initial enrollment process after being approved. So the client or yourself will have 30 days to choose what type of managed care organization they would like to receive benefits from. If they do not apply, there's going to be something called an auto assignment after 30 days. Normally, when you do receive the letter of approval for Medicaid, on the back of the paper or one of the papers, it would provide information such as the name, something called an RAN number, which is the number that you will be using for benefits, and the plan they could be assigned to if they do not choose a plan. So if that specific plan the client is not happy with or does not want it, then you'll have to contact DHS and HFS and ask them to change the MCO, the managed care organization, to the different one that they want. After also assignment, there's going to be an enrollment effective date. Normally, a lot of clients, after they do receive a card, the card will mostly, not sure why, but it would have the date of the following month. Normally, individuals will receive a card, let's say, this month in May. However, the card itself would have an eligibility date the month after June. That doesn't mean that the client does not have coverage this month. However, they would be covered under the general Medicaid through DHS. A lot of people do call it like plain Medicaid, which it's not an assigned plan, but it would be Medicaid until their assigned plan starts. So after the enrollment effective date, let's say you do receive a managed care organization, you're coming up to redetermination, which is 12 months. After 12 months after receiving benefits, and you want to change your MCO. You're not happy. Let's say you're receiving county care and you're not happy with county care. All of the doctors that you want take, let's say, Molina. So you have 60 days prior to your anniversary, called open enrollment, that you can change your managed care organization to a different one. This is only for managed care organization. This does not include primary care providers. So if your client was assigned in a primary care provider, those who are receiving, I think all of the MCOs have this policy that you can change your primary care provider once a month. That takes the same insurance. So that's something else. So if you need assistance to enroll in benefits or a specific MCO, you can contact the Healthcare and Family Services. They can review plans with you, and you can access the website to get more information and compare plans. So these are the current managed care organization plans that we have in Illinois. We have County Care. County Care is only for Cook County. We have Molina, we have Meridian, we have Aetna Better Health, and Blue Cross Blue Shield Illinois are community plans normally. So these are the managed care organizations that have Medicaid programs. So it is important to start with a plan once the plan is selected or you are auto-assigned, you will be locked with this specific plan for 12 months. And you can only transfer to another managed care organization which is, you can choose it like 60 days before the 12 months. So it can start if you're still eligible after doing the redetermination, you would be transferred to that specific one. So the effective date is the first day of the managed care organization coverage begins. 90 days is the window to switch the plans once after enrollment date. And it may change primary care providers anytime within the plan's rule, which is normally once per month. So new open enrollment at the end of the 12-month lock-in period, an open enrollment period begins 60 days before the anniversary date. In general, the plan will remain same if not changed during open enrollment. So normally the plan itself will not change if you do not do any types of action. However, recently we've been hearing some situations that clients have been transferred to a different managed care organization in their redetermination date. If it happens, you can file an appeal very quickly within the first 60 days and ask them to change back to the original plan that the client wanted. So we do have an example. Let's say for this example specifically, April 1st would be the Medicaid backdated. In Medicaid backdated, meaning like you do apply for benefits in July 1st and you do get approved. So your coverage will start July 1st. 3 months before, let's say you have a bill from April, it would be covered. In September 3, you have until September to select an MCO plan because you did get approved in July, 90 days, which would be September. After that, the enrollment would begin the month after selecting an MCO plan. And then the redetermination due would be the 12 months anniversary, 60 days before, basically. So not sure. Yes, so these specifically, so these are some of the services that Medicaid covers in general, which is inpatient and outpatient treatments, chiropractic services, dental services, including oral surgeons. There are differences in the amount of dental services covered between MCOs, and majority when it comes to dental services, it's for enrollees under the age of 21 that would have the highest coverage. Family planning services and supplies, hospital emergency room visits, labs and diagnostic services, medical supplies, equipment, mental health services would be included if there is a referral mostly, pharmacy services, physical, occupational, and speech therapy, transportation to secure covered services would be covered as well. So in general, MCO plans, the majority of them are considered HMOs mostly, or ACOs, which is basically there's a primary care provider that has to do the referrals to specialists, such as, let's say, I can't think of a specialist, ENTs, for example, or a gastrointestinal specialist. Any specialist has to be gone through a referral by the provider to the specialist. And a lot of the Medicaid coverage when it comes to specialists, there's going to be a prior authorization requirement in a lot of cases. There are other factors when it comes to Medicaid and choose a provider and MCOs and all of that. So you can look up in an MCO before choosing. Let's say you have 60 days to choose a plan and you want to see the providers in your area, which plan they do take. You can look into the providers list, the drugs that are covered, for example. There's a member handbook for each MCO that you can read through and see if it works for you or if you can look for another one else. And there's a list of procedures requiring pre-authorization and restrictions. A lot of the MCOs have, or all of them have, some type of care coordination services that you can request. You can request it and apply for it, but not everyone would be able to receive it. It depends on case by case. So sometimes your primary care provider can refer you to the care coordination services that's provided by Medicaid. And sometimes you can call member services and request for it specifically. If you have, let's say, a difficult case or you're disabled and you have a lot of specialist care and you need assistance with it. So it would be some type of case management. So they help navigate the healthcare system. They help make appointments for primary care, for specialists. They help secure transportation. And it would be mostly covered through Medicaid, such as they can receive bus cards or bus passes in the mail. They can receive, they can have someone pick them up if they file certain documentation. They can, I think recently they're trying to do like Ubers and Lyfts. I'm not sure if it's already happening now or it's like a plan, but that's one of the things they can do for transportation. They also ensure prior approvals are authorized before the client can go, let's say, for a procedure or receive a treatment, and arrange for any other social services as needed, such as connection to food banks, case management, receiving services that are not covered by insurance. There are rights consumers have in general. So every MCO is obligated to have internal grievance and appeal procedures. There would be some reason of it, and denial of services can be appealed to HFS only after decision of MCO. So you can appeal in general. Let's say your insurance denied you to have braces. They say you do not the amount of points you got for braces is not enough for us to cover, so you do not need it. You can appeal it. And if you do get it denied again, and you see that the MCO's decision was unfair, you can contact the Healthcare and Family Services for it, and they can review the case as well. Sometimes you have some situations that you would be assigned to a provider or a doctor who is no longer in the network. So you call to try to make the appointment, or you already see the provider, but let's say the new year they decide they are no longer going to take this specific plan. So they, for example, this specific example, we have Steve. Steve enrolls in a MCO plan, a managed care organization, and finds out later that their provider is no longer in the plan's network. So how can we help Steve? So what information do we need to help Steve in this situation? Can Steve change their managed care organization, MCO? And what if Steve is in middle of treatment for a serious health condition? What do you recommend that Steve does? Like, what information do we need from him for us to be able to help him? Can he change his managed care organization because his provider no longer is in the network? And what would happen, what if Steve was in the middle of a treatment of a serious health condition and the provider is not accepting their insurance? Any comments about this specifically? So when it comes in general, what we need to know about Steve to help him, first of all, we need to know when his effective date for benefits started. When did he apply in general for benefits? Did he if he applied like a month ago or a couple days ago and try to make an appointment, or was it a year ago, or was it a couple months ago? So we need to know when he applied and got approved for benefits. We need to know for sure what type of MCO he has, what managed care organization he is under. We need to know for sure to help him better, we need to know what providers in his area do take his current MCO to be able to help him as well. Luisa, do you have your hand up, or is it from before? I think it's from before. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's for before. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. If you can, I just saw it right now. So, okay. So in this specific case, so these are the information that would help us to know better about Steve to help him. And the next question would be, can he change his MCO? So it actually depends when. Did he apply for benefits a month ago, meaning that he has 60 days to choose his plan? Was it 6 months ago? Was it a year ago? So if he was still in the enrollment period that he can change his MCO the first 60 days, or 60 days before his anniversary date, he can choose a different MCO that his doctor can take. However, if not, the only option for Steve can do in this situation is look for another doctor that takes his plan in the area. He can ask for care coordination services through his MCO and ask them to help him assign for a primary care provider. Or if he wants, he can just ask his doctor. The doctor might know of another physician in the area that takes the same managed care organization insurance. But what if Steve was in the middle of a treatment of a serious health condition? What can he do? This is just a recommendation. He can just go to the ER with his insurance until he can be seen by a doctor. So the transition and continuity of care in general, health plans must support continuation of services as long as the enrollee is existing course of treatment. So they still have to receive treatment from them. However, they can still go to the ER as well. The service is covered service medically necessary. Most plans have a 90-day transition period. 180-day transition period is available in certain facilities. For we do also have consumer rights when it comes to health plan appeals when filing for an appeal. You have to file an appeal with health plan first if challenging denial of coverage or payment of covered service. So when you can do it, if they are not approving or paying for service requested by a provider, they are stopping a service that was previously approved, not providing service or items in a timely manner, not approving service because it was not in health plan network. So these are the things that you can review and request an appeal. So other rights that a customer have for an appeal, appeals have to be filed within 60 days. If the health plan's final decision on appeal is not resolved in favor of the member, it can be appealed to state under the fair hearing systems. Some of the things that they can file for appeal, as I've mentioned, let's say they wanted braces and the insurance denied the coverage, or someone went to the ER and insurance is like, we're not covering the ER visit. They can file an appeal within 60 days. You can file an appeal twice if it does not work and you feel that it was not fair. You can appeal to the state under the fair hearing system. Are there any questions before we start talking about redetermination? Okay, thank you. So in general, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a pause or there has been something called a continuous coverage for Medicaid. So everyone, regardless if they were still eligible or no longer, like if they're eligible or not, if they have received Medicaid before starting the pandemic, they would still be receiving the Medicaid plan, or they would still be receiving benefits until the end of the continuous coverage. The continuous coverage has ended last year in May 2023. It's the 1-year anniversary already for the end of continuous coverage. Everyone within the state of Illinois, everyone in the United States in general, had to have received a renewal notice in the mail. So normally, if your renewal, if your redetermination was scheduled to be in let's say July, you have to start receiving, most likely you'll be receiving a redetermination letter or requesting for you to file a redetermination 2 months before that date. So currently everyone in the state of Illinois and in the United States in general has received the renewal notices for Medicaid from the pandemic. So for the redetermination for continuous coverage, as I mentioned, has ended in general in April 2024. Now normal redetermination process that has been happening before COVID is back. So it'd be every 12 months, 60 days before the anniversary, individuals will be receiving a letter requesting for redetermination. If let's say they have the social security number and everything, and IDHS caseworker are able to determine eligibility without requesting the individual to file a redetermination, individuals or families in general will be receiving a letter in the mail mentioning that no redetermination is needed and your benefits will still be continuing. So in general, Medicaid eligibility has to be reviewed at least once a year. Electronic verification would be done whenever possible. And redetermination can be completed online through APE, Manage My Case. For Medicaid redetermination in general, it would be for Medicaid, all types of Medicaid, SNAP, and cash assistance. When it comes to Medicaid, as I mentioned, it's a minimum once a year, and SNAP is also, which is the food assistance, would be once a year. However, there would be a reporting requirement after 6 months of receiving the benefit. So it is very important that customers respond to all inquiries to ensure there's no types of gaps in coverage. If you do not respond, most likely you or your client would be no longer eligible, or like your benefits will be stopped. So for your determination, you can use the online website ABE, which is Manage My Case. For using this certain website, you can just go to, this is how it looks like on the website, sorry. And you can actually see information about your case, what benefits you're receiving, such as the bottom, you can see supplemental nutrition assistance program, health coverage, and cash assistance. Summary, some of the summaries will also provide links of PDF files of any communication that IDHS has sent through the mail to the client. And you can review your benefits. This one button would be, or renew my benefits, sorry, would be about if it's up for redetermination, you can do it online. You can see your redetermination date. You can see pre-filed redetermination forms and submit the redetermination if you'd like. When it comes to submission, if possible, complete the electronic version because it would be faster and you will 100% be sure that the redetermination has been submitted. Or you can file out, sign, and send the redetermination form through an FCRC through mail or through fax. However, as I've recommended before, if you do choose this option, please do contact the FCRC that you do send the forms to and make sure that they have received the documents. If you do lose coverage because you did not file a redetermination or your client lost it, for non-cooperation, coverage can be reinstated if required information have been submitted within 90 days of the redetermination date ending. A new application would be required if information received out of the 90-day time frame, meaning the redetermination deadline, let's say January 1st, you or your client did not file it out, so the medical coverage would be stopped. However, you do submit the information needed, let's say the month after, which is in the 90 days grace period. So your coverage will go back and you would be still covered. If you do submit after 90 days or you do not submit it at all, you would then, or your client would then be needing to submit a new form or a new application for Medicaid. So this is how, so this is MC, the manage my case, how it looks like online and what questions and how to report any type of changes when it comes to the summary. So in general, customers who are receiving benefits through IDHS and HFS have to report any type of changes within 10 days of the change, including addresses, household number, contact information, or any bills and expenses that have been changing, they have to be reported. This helps to determine eligibility. Maybe they're no longer eligible, and also can help to prevent public charge in some cases if you're receiving cash benefits more than you need, for example, and prevent you from returning any type of benefit, specifically cash or SNAP benefits as well. You can also look into the benefits detail, and if you have been receiving benefits from previous years as well, you can look into what benefits you have been receiving and what years and the details of it. Also, the aid will also provide information about you, the person, and the family. If you have any type of spend down, it would show. The anniversary date will also be shown on the website, as we've mentioned. So if it's due, you can file it. If not, it's just good to know when it's due. So before moving on to some troubleshooting, are there any questions? Okay. Yes, Kenya, go ahead. Hopefully I said your name correctly.
Hi, my name is Kina. I
Kina,
don't know
okay.
if this will be covered in the next part, but I've done a few redetermination cases where in the AIP website, they already generated past information from the original application, and the community member, they don't recognize certain information. Like they didn't remember if they ever say that, like let's say for income, certain source of income, they say they've never worked there, they've never made that income, but it's in the auto-generated parts of the application. And I don't know if we could just keep it there and then note in the comment section, or is there any way to just remove it altogether?
If the client already got approved or denied according to that, I recommend contacting IDHS, the FCRC, just to make sure that they did not put information about another person. I would recommend checking the Social Security part of the application, if the Social Security is correct or not, or maybe another Social Security has been added. You can write it in the you can reapply, and if you're able to change the sections, please do. But I highly do suggest contacting an FCRC and reporting about these changes. And if you're able to email them, so you can have a paper copy of it, just in case if any issues happen in the future, specifically if they're applying, let's say, for citizenship or anything, they can have it as proof that I've been receiving, this is the information that has been putting there, but it was an issue and I reported it. So the best way, if you want to complete with the ABE application, you can do that and write it in the comment section. And also then contacting an FCRC, a Family Community Resource Center, the one that you are applying through, or you can go there in person with your client and report the issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Kina. Okay, so moving on, some issues when it comes to troubleshooting, for example, when it comes to applying for Medicaid benefits. Let's say you have a client that has been receiving all kids, they turned 19, and the determination has sent. Because they are no longer eligible for all kids due to their age, they are no longer eligible for all kids. However, if they meet immigration status, they would be then transferred to another program. If they do not meet Medicaid, they could be transferred to the ACA marketplace. In this certain situation, the client would be removed from the family health plan for May, and deletion action is entered on the specific date. It would show when the coverage will be ending. If then he got transferred to purchase insurance through ACA marketplace, then it would provide an approval date and when he can enroll in general, and when to choose an MCO plan in general. So there's a fee for service, for example, which is if they do the ACA, because coverage of ACA is kind of different from Medicaid. Determination. Let's say someone got terminated immediately without filing a determination because of the information that IDHS has received that this individual, let's say, is making more than the specific income. Or if they are, let's say, they moved and they have not reported it, or for any type of reason that IDHS determines that this person would be terminated. If you want to appeal this decision, you can appeal it specifically, you can appeal it specifically and ask for them to reopen the application if you are eligible. I'm not going to go through the examples, unfortunately, due to the time. So for reopening an application, to expedite this specific case to be reopened without an appeal, DHS would allow applicants to provide missing documentations within 60 days of denial notice and reopen the application. So reopening a denial application, medical application, there's a specific form that you can file out, and the reopen application can only happen once without an appeal. If there's an urgent medical need, you can email HFS, the Health Family Services, and request them that this is a very urgent need. We cannot wait until Medicaid is approved. You will have to provide information about the situation, such as the name of the individual who needs the medical urgent need, their date of birth, application tracking number. It's called like a T number. It has the rest of it, and provide a couple sentences on the summary of the health needs. Or you can call the Health and Family Services and provide information about it. If there's any documents to assist that they are in they're in a hurry to receive benefits, that could assist as well. So we're going to go very quickly about something called Medicaid spend down. Spend down in general is the difference between the income and resources, the state standards. So currently there's no Medicaid spend down. However, there are some situation we do have spend down, such as the AABD, which is the Aid of Age Blind and Disabled. However, other programs such as All Kids, Moms and Babies, ACA, and Family Health Plan do not have a spend down. There are other health plan programs that have spend downs in certain situations, such as HBIA and HBIS, health benefits for immigrant adults and health benefits for immigrant seniors. They could have a spend down according to the managed care organization they have been assigned to. So if the application is approved, if medical expenses would exceed the amount that the person is over the income and or resource standards specifically. How would it be calculated? So all income would be added together, an allowable deduction would be made. Total compared would be to the state standards in general, and there's going to be then balance in the spend down amount. After the spend down is approved, you can apply for in general through ABE and include any type of medical expenses. The letter sent to the consumer would be advising of the amount of spend down, which also would include information about the calculation, what they exactly calculated when it came to spend down, when the first month of coverage would be. If the spend down is met, the separate letter sent advising what month spend down has been met, and medical bills used to meet the spend down would also be provided in the letter. You can also view the same information on Manage My Case. There's going to be specific files as a PDF form of any type of correspondence that IDHS would be sending in the mail. If you want a little bit more resources specifically about this, you can access these specific website. This is the one I mentioned earlier, which is called Protecting Immigrant Families. A lot of the fact sheets in this specific website has, they have them translated to different languages. They have a lot about public charts specifically. And Help Hub PovertyLaw.org is a help hub for navigators and benefit assisters that want to ask questions, and benefit specialists. And a lot of them are lawyers, attorneys, immigrant attorneys, or specialized more in the health plan specifically, would be able to answer your questions or email you privately and ask for more information. Are there any questions before I move specifically to HBIA and HBIS? Okay, let me check the chat quickly. Okay, I do not have anything in the chat currently. So HBIA and HBIS are short for two health programs that are provided in the state of Illinois. They're called Health Benefits for Immigrant Adults and Health Benefit for Immigrant Seniors. So it's a coverage for immigrants that are not eligible to receive Medicaid due to their immigration status, meaning they are unqualified non-citizens. So for the HBIA and HBIS program, they have to meet following eligibility requirements, age requirements for each of the program. For HBIA, which is for immigrant adults, they have to be between the age of 43 to 64. Kina, yes, you'll have access to the slides with the recording as well. You will have to meet the age requirement for each program. For HBIA, it will be 43 to 64. And for HBIS, it would be over the age of 65. So they have to be meeting certain immigration statuses, such as being an undocumented immigrant. It also includes TPS holders, which is temporary protected statuses, a resident of Illinois, and have a certain income below a certain federal poverty line threshold. So it's specifically for anyone who has some type of temporary status or undocumented or are ineligible for any type of Medicaid program. So in the past, which is a month ago, lawful permanent residents, green card holders that had that specific status for less than 5 years were eligible to receive this program. However, from April 30th, a couple of weeks ago, they're no longer eligible. So around the end of March, beginning of April, there have been mass redeterminations sent to those who are receiving benefits through these programs. For those who are still eligible, a redetermination has been asked for them to fill out. However, for those who are no longer eligible, have been no longer would be receiving any type of benefits from a certain date. And those who have LPR green cards under 5 years have been receiving letters of referrals to the ACA marketplace. Because they are documented non-immigrants, they are still eligible to purchase insurance through the ACA Marketplace Affordable Care Act. So currently, HBI and HBIS are not accepting any type of new applications. The program are still on, so anyone who has been enrolled before these certain dates are still receiving benefits if they are still eligible and have been filing their redetermination during the time period that they should be filing it. So HBIA program has been temporarily paused as of July 1st of 2023, and HBIS has been temporarily paused as of November 6th of 2023. There has been no announcements on when the programs will reopen for any type of new enrollments. So the programs are paused. They did not end. There has not been any information about ending the program, so it's paused. So hopefully it will reopen again. Not sure when. So the beginning of this specific year, there has been some transitions from these specific programs to MCOs, which is managed care organizations, including the ones that I have information here over here. So, and there are co-pays. So these managed care organizations are going to be enforcing co-pays. However, county care, which is only for those who live in Cook County, has informed that they would not be charging any type of co-pay at all. So those in Cook County, a lot of them would prefer to go with county care. They can choose county care. However, any one who is receiving HBI and HBIS that lives out of Cook County would be assigned to any of the other MCOs, and there's going to be some type of co-pays. They're normally very small. They're not a lot. However, it's a big difference from before and after. So MCO enrollment process, first of all, there's an initial enrollment auto assignment, then there's an effective enrollment date, the same as when it comes to normal Medicaid, the 90-day initial enrollment switch period to change from one plan to another, and an open choice period or open enrollment, which is 60 days before the anniversary date. So the redetermination process, this is the exact schedule that the Health and Family Services has provided when it comes to redetermination and the new grace period program or process that they decided to do newly. So basically, any of the end of certification, when the redetermination would be sent, and the last day of the return to redetermination for any type of reinstatement is over here. You will be receiving a copy of the slide so you can review it. However, in general, anyone who did not file a redetermination or is no longer eligible will not be receiving services benefits under these programs starting from July 1st of this year. So this is how the courtesy renewal follow-up letter will look. So it will have like courtesy renewal follow-up letter right in here. Some clients would receive this, so you know that they have received the renewal form. However, they did not file it. So this is like a reminder. Eligibility updates, as I've mentioned, there have been processing of HBIA and HBIS redetermination as of April 1st. Those who do not file or are no longer eligible will lose their coverage as of July 1st of this year. And those who have LPR for less than 5 years, which are green card holders, are no longer eligible for this specific program. However, they can still purchase insurance through the marketplace. I have the same table I had earlier in the presentation that has information about different immigration statuses, just to confirm and to emphasize that LPR holders that less than 5 years are no longer eligible for HBIA and HBIS, but at least they can still purchase insurance through the marketplace. So when it comes to marketplace coverage in general, there's something called the Special Enrollment Period, SEP, or the Health Insurance Marketplace with Financial Health in general. So open enrollment for the marketplace is normally in November, and it ends like mid-January of every year. But if you lose coverage for Medicaid for any type of region, such as losing HBI and HBIS, you would be having a special enrollment period, so you can purchase insurance from the marketplace 60 days after, during the 60 days after you lose your coverage. There are also advanced premium tax credits, cost sharing reductions according to your income. And we do have sorry. It also includes marketplace special enrollment period for individuals at or below 150% of the federal poverty line. And this would continue until December 31st of 2025. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Medicaid specifically, we do have a couple of guides on our website in English and in Spanish. And we have a page dedicated specifically on Medicaid redetermination with recorded webinars. So this would require some participation in the chat if anyone would like to participate. So we do have a couple of examples on, we're going to talk about eligibility in general. Yeah, Jacqueline was asking about the recording. Yes, the recording will be shared as well. In general, Carlos and Maggie are married and have a 10-year-old child named Sam. Maggie is a stay-at-home mom and is not pregnant. It is very important to know this information that she is not pregnant. Carlos works full-time and his income is $3,700 a month. We're going to be looking into their eligibility for Medicaid. Who from the family would be eligible for the Medicaid, for Medicaid coverage in general? To help us understand a little bit, I just put a couple of points just to make it a little bit clear that the household size is 3, Carlos, Maggie, and the 10-year-old child, Sam. The household income is $3,700 that Carlos only makes. Maggie's income is 0. She makes 0 money. And the whole household income is $37 a month. Who can receive Medicaid according to the income? You can write their names in the chat. Correct. When it comes to Medicaid coverage, Sam would be the only individual who would be receiving Medicaid benefits. As the family makes $3,700 a month, and the adults have to be making less than $2,900 a month for them to be eligible for coverage, which is they make more. However, they still make less, but then all kids, which is $6,800. So meaning only Sam, the child, will be able to receive all kids. So because they're not eligible for Medicaid, let's say Maggie is interested in receiving reproductive health services, and she applies for family planning program. Family planning program is only on the individual, not the whole family income. Because Maggie does not work, it makes her individual income 0. So she can at least receive some type of care services under family planning program. Which mostly would be like receiving birth control, some type of very small primary care services, treatments for STDs, and some follow-up. Okay, we have another example. For this specific example, we have Jose and Estefania are married and have 4 children. 4 children. They are 22, 18, 13, and 10. Jose and Estefania are both green card holders since 2021. Estefania is 5 months pregnant. Their children aged 18 and 13 are also green card holders since 2021. The youngest and the oldest, 10 and 22 years old, are U.S. citizens. Their family mass income is $4,000. Who would be eligible for Medicaid coverage? So for this specific example, I think I forgot to edit it. I'm just going to show exactly what I mean by it. So the household size is actually 7, not 6, because a pregnant woman would be counted as 2 when it comes to Medicaid and for cash benefits only. For moms and babies, specifically, if we want to see Estefania's eligibility, we'll look into a household of 2, not a household of 1. That's very important to know. I counted it incorrectly. So it's not 2. So the actual household size is 7. Jose and Estefania and 2 of their children are green card holders since 2021, meaning they have they have been holders since less than 3 years. The oldest, who's 22, and the youngest, who's 10, are U.S. citizens, and Estefania is 5 months pregnant. Their income is $4,000. Who from the family would be eligible to receive Medicaid? you can just mention names or ages when it comes to kids. The household size is 7. Just so you know, it's not 6. Okay, due to time, I will be answering. So in general, for sorry, does someone have something to say?
I think it will be all of them, depends on the income.
So yes, we do look into income. However, we do look into immigration status in this specific example because I did provide immigration status and health status, correct?
They have been legal residents since
I mean, since then, none of them were legal immigrants for 5 years, so mostly only woman is gonna get a benefit. Pregnant lady.
Yes. Yeah, correct. So because Jose, Stefania, and 2 of their children are green card holders for less than 3 years, that makes them unqualified non-citizens, meaning they're not eligible for federal Medicaid benefits. Meaning even if they do meet income, they are not eligible. However, we do have 2 special cases. Stefania is pregnant and the kids are under 18. The two kids who have green cards are under 18. Making them eligible if they meet income method criteria for benefits. The oldest, who's 22, is a U.S. citizen, and the youngest is 10 are U.S. citizens, making them, when it comes to citizenship, eligible. And if we check the income, which is for adults under 4,800, sorry, that's for 6. So we'll have to add 619 to it. The 22, the oldest, is still eligible for ACA. So in this specific case, everyone be able to receive insurance except the father, who's Jose, because of his immigration status. Are there any questions about this before I move on? I know it's a very like a very built up example just to show like how there are mixed households, there are like sometimes complicated cases. Not all cases are like straightforward. Not everyone would be receiving benefits. So in this specific example, a household is 7 because a pregnant woman is counted as 2. And because Stefania, who's pregnant, making her a special case where her immigration status will not be taken into consideration, we'll only look into her income as a family. The oldest and the youngest are U.S. citizens, so we only look into income. The rest of the children who are under 18, we'll only look into the income regardless of immigration status because it's also considered a special case. Okay. So we do have other medical/health programs for those who are not eligible for any type of Medicaid or any type of health program under the state or the federal. So in the state of Illinois, we do have a lot of free clinics for those who are considered low income specifically. To find information about close by free clinics, the Illinois Association of Free and Charitable Clinics website does have a very good clinic directory for 43 free and charitable clinics in the state of Illinois. They provide information when they're open, where they're located, and their contact info for sure. Other than free clinics, you can also contact an FQHC, which is the Federal Qualified Health Center, and request that you have their fees, something called a slide scale, which is a specific scale you ask for those who do not have insurance. You can ask for them to cover the cost, to pay a very small amount of money. It's normally for those who are not eligible for insurance and aren't able to afford care. If you're interested about slide scale, you can contact the FQHC and they can provide more information on it. We also have Access DuPage. This is specifically only for DuPage County. So Access DuPage specifically is a health insurance for those who are not eligible for Medicaid due to immigration status and they meet income method levels that they post on their website. They could receive some medical care in different facilities in DuPage County. It would cover primary care specialist, emergency room visits, some x-rays and labs in general. There are going to be very small copays, like $10 to $20, and they can also receive medications, prescription drug medications for free through their DuPage Dispensary of Hope for pharmacy. They have also a very good program called Silver Access, which are for low-income individuals who live in DuPage County that are no longer eligible for Medicaid and are purchasing their insurance through the ACA marketplace. If they meet certain federal poverty line, which is 200%, which is I think 250% of the federal poverty line, they could be eligible to receive up to $150 per month to pay for their premiums, which could make that maybe make their insurance for free as well. More information is on this flyer. You'll have a copy of the slides. So if you're in DuPage County, you're interested about the specific program, in general, the DuPage Health Coalition is very responsive and is more than happy to talk about their programs and help clients to access benefits. So this is specifically in DuPage as well. It's called the DuPage Health Department. They do have every month a like an open day event to assist those with applications through IDHS or the marketplace in general. They do help specifically for Medicaid redetermination more than anything else. So you can call, make an appointment for that day, or you can just walk into their location. They do have bilingual staff, specifically, I believe, in Urdu. I remember Spanish and I think Russian. I'm not sure, but in general, I'm not sure. I think they provide interpretation services. So they provide assistance in medical application redetermination, enrollment in ACA marketplace, and they can also refer to other local programs in the area that the client could be eligible for. Some resources before we end. So in general, if you need assistance in applying or finding resources in the state of Illinois, there are many Illinois Welcome Centers spread out. I believe there are at least 46 or 46 Illinois Welcome Centers in the area that are equipped to assist all Illinois residents regardless of immigration status. So they're considered as a one-stop human service center. They are familiar with benefits and services that are provided by the state federal agency, and they're aware of all of the local resources in certain zip codes that they are assigned to. They have to lead efforts to coordinate social services in their particular geographic area by creating community alliances. And they host also a variety of community education workshops where they are required to provide translation and interpretation services to provide information to immigrants and refugees to learn about resources and information. More about the Illinois Welcome Centers and how to find the closest one. IDHS has a list of all the Illinois Welcome Centers that have been receiving funds through the Illinois Department of Human Services, and information about the language provided in those specific services and their hours specifically. So another resource is our website. We do have trainings, recordings of trainings, public benefits and language access resources, translated materials in Spanish, Arabic, Russian, and Mandarin, I believe. Not all of them, but some of them. We have recorded webinars and online self-paced trainings that are currently offered for free. I can add the online self-paced trainings in the follow-up email if anyone is interested in going through them. This is a tool that we have. It's called the Immigrant Eligibility Reference Tool that I would be adding in the follow-up email as well. So it has a bunch of immigration statuses and their eligibility for all types of benefits. So this is another program we have. It's called LARC, providing interpretation services, translation of material as well. They do proficiency assessments and interpreter training. So if you're interested, if you're a bilingual individual in a nonprofit, or you have a staff member or a volunteer that normally does the interpretation within your organization, you can reach out to us. And if there are funds, grant funds, the cost for the interpreter training can be covered by those costs. Normally, interpreter training in total with all of the assessments cost around $700 and $900. So that would be like a very good like scholarship or something for that staff member or volunteer that you normally work with. This is their information. Again, you'll be receiving a copy of the slides. And this is the series that you've been attending. So there is only one more to this series that's coming up. It's applying for public benefits, ABE, and manage my case. If you have not registered, you can register on the website. If you're having issues with it, you can email me privately about it. I also wanted to announce that the first training, which is Public Benefits Essential, Food and Cash Benefits, for those who were did not attend or that registered and did not attend for any reason, or did not register for it and like to register for it, we are offering another date. We didn't advertise it yet, but it's gonna be June 13th. From 10 a.m. to 12:30. We made it this time in the morning. So I will be providing more information about it later. So that's actually the end of the presentation. So are there any questions that you would like to ask of me before ending? Again, the presentation and the recording will be shared.